If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
For the information that we have.
Before he ran the FBI, Kash Patel talked about the Epstein files like a man who knew what was in them. Now he runs the FBI, and under oath, a Republican senator asks him the simplest possible question about those files. And the answer is 4 words. No credible information. None. This isn't about outrage. It's about one man's story, told 2 different ways, and a document nobody outside the government has fully seen. Let's read the receipts.
Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None.
No credible information. None. This is Carter Mackenzie. We don't do outrage. We read the receipts. And today the receipt is a sentence, sworn under oath, and what it does and doesn't say. Start with who's asking, because it matters. This isn't a Democrat trying to score points. It's Senator John Kennedy, a Republican, who says he's pushed for transparency on Epstein since 2019. He's on Patel's side of the aisle, and he still can't get the answer the public wants. Watch the full exchange.
I want to ask you about the Epstein files. Have you seen the Epstein files?
I have not reviewed the entirety of it myself, but a good amount.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that Mr. Epstein trafficked young women, including, in some instances, minors, for sex to himself?
That was specifically the allegations in the 2018 indictment in the Southern District of New York.
Okay. Who else did he traffic these young women to?
In terms of what the investigation, again, going back to 2008, Mr. Acosta, who limited the investigation and limited the search warrants and limited the parameters of the investigation, the only thing we are able to speak to publicly, because he was given a non-prosecution agreement by Mr. Acosta, is that first time period from, I believe, don't quote me on this, 97 to 2001-ish. And then when the Trump administration courageously reopened it.
Excuse me for interrupting, but I'm going to run out of time. You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
For the information that we have.
Now let's be precise, because this is exactly the kind of sentence that gets clipped and twisted, and we don't do that here. Patel does not say no one else was ever involved. Listen again. He says there is no credible information in the files he has to bring a case against anyone else, and this is the key qualifier. The information we have is limited. Those are 2 different claims stacked together. We found nothing chargeable, and what we have is incomplete. Both can be true at once. And when Kennedy sums it up as, the answer is no one, Patel lets it stand, but only for the information that we have. Every clause is doing careful work. Here's why that phrasing is a receipt worth keeping. The same man, before he had the job, spoke about the Epstein files very differently. On a 2024 podcast, Patel was asked who holds Epstein's so-called black book, and according to the exchange, read into the record at this very hearing, he said it was under the direct control of the director of the FBI. Language that landed with a lot of people as, the names are in a vault, and the director can open it. Now, he is the director, and the vault, in his sworn words, contains no credible information. That's not proof of a cover-up. But it is a genuine gap between the private citizen version and the under oath version, and closing that gap is the whole reason oversight exists.
So you're releasing them a little bit at a time, is that correct?
We're releasing as much as we can, but we are limited by 3 different court orders, and the department went back to each of those judges to waive those court orders or have them lifted, and each of those judges declined.
Will you release all of them, or at least as many as you can?
We will release everything we are legally permitted to do so. We are continuing to work with the House on the subpoena request. We have substantially complied with it, but we will continue to release whatever we are legally permitted to do so.
Okay. I strongly encourage you to do that. Kash, this issue's not going to go away. And I think the essential question for the American people is this. They know that Epstein trafficked young women for sex to himself. They want to know who, if anyone else, he trafficked these young women to. And that's a very fair question. I want to know that answer. And I think you're going to have to do more to satisfy the American people's understandable curiosity in that regard.
This is the honest tension of the whole story, and Kennedy names it perfectly. On one side, Patel says 3 separate court orders legally block full release, and that judges decline to lift them. That's a real, checkable constraint, not an excuse he invented. On the other side, the public was promised a reckoning, and no credible information, plus we're limited by court orders, is not the reckoning they were told to expect. Kennedy, a Republican, says it out loud. This doesn't satisfy people, and it isn't going to go away. When the pushback comes from your own side, it stops being politics and starts being a credibility problem. Now the receipts cut both ways, and Patel's defense deserves to be heard in full, not paraphrased by me.
The Epstein case files existed in the 2 prior administrations, in the Obama administration and the Biden administration, and they didn't release anything. And there was President Trump in the first administration that renewed charges against Mr. Epstein. And I know it's a little complicated to understand, but what exists in the Epstein case files was a direct result of the limited search warrants from 2006 and 7, which hamstrung future investigations because of the non-prosecution agreement. And multiple administrations had the opportunity to look at the entirety of that case file and recommend prosecutions against anyone that was trafficked under Mr. Epstein and anyone that participated in that trafficking. And the only person to bring charges was the prior administration against Mr. Epstein. Now, I am not saying that others were not trafficked and others were not involved. What I am telling you is that based on the information we have, and we have continuously and publicly asked for the public to come forward with more information. If there is, we'll look at it. But based on credible information, we have released all credible information, and the information that the Department of Justice and the FBI never releases is information on investigations that are not credible. And we don't release the names of victims who weren't credible, but in the same time, we don't release the names of victims who were credible. And so that's by law. And so the information we are releasing now is historic, and it is also to the maximum capacity that the law allows. And I know that's not going to satisfy many, many, many people. But if they wanted it done right, then the investigation from its origination should have been done right.
Take that seriously, because parts of it are strong. Patel's argument, the files sat untouched under 2 prior administrations that released nothing. The real failure was the 2006-2008 handling of the original case, which limited the search warrants and locked much of it behind court orders. And he says he's releasing everything the law permits. If those court orders are real, and 3 judges declining to lift them suggests they are then release everything, genuinely does have a ceiling he didn't build. That's a fair point, and it belongs in the story. But 2 things survive the defense. First, the court order ceiling explains why he can't release everything it doesn't, explain the change in his own language. Nothing forced a private citizen to imply the vault was full and a sworn director to say it holds no credible information. That shift is his, not a judge's. Second, listen to who's unsatisfied. Not a partisan opponent, but Senator Kennedy on his own side saying it plainly. When the person asking you to do more is a Republican who's chased this since 2019, the problem isn't the question, it's the answer. So here's what the receipts actually say, stripped of the shouting. Under oath, the FBI director testified there is no credible information in the files to charge anyone beyond Epstein himself, while adding that what the government holds is limited and that court orders block a fuller release. That is a narrower, more careful claim than the one he made before he had the badge. Is that the whole story finally told, or a story quietly rewritten now that he's the one holding the file? Don't take my word for it, and don't take his. The hearing is linked below. Watch Kennedy's 5 minutes and read the sentence yourself. This is Carter Mackenzie. We read the receipts, so you never have to take anyone's word for it, not theirs and not mine.